Chapter 21. The Calm Before the Storm. Nick took advantage of the time Captain Rhodes was talking to the pilot about flight plans to look around the Harpy. His curiosity led him deeper into the machine that would soon take them into battle. As soon as he stepped outside the cockpit, it was clear that this wasn't just a transport. It was a castle in the sky. The engine's hum echoed through his boots, steady like a heartbeat. Faint blue lights pulsed along the metal walls like veins carrying life through a machine. The first place he went was the small armory, which was locked behind a strong hatch. The air inside had a faint smell of oil and ozone. Under sterile light, every surface shone. Sleek assault rifles were magnetically mounted in neat rows next to racks of modular body armor and small drones that looked like steel birds ready to fly. The grappling hooks, tactical ropes, and flash grenades were all carefully arranged, and each one was held in place by discipline, not ease. The drawers below held night vision goggles, sonic disruptors, and encrypted communication modules. These were such high-tech gadgets that they seemed like they had come straight from the minds of the engineers who built the Zeus armor itself. Nick's eyes stayed on a plasma-forged knife that was resting in a velvet slot. Its blade was humming softly, matching the ghostly blue light that pulsed through his armor. For a brief moment, he saw a boy in the shine of the light, who was pretending to be ready for war, but was already carrying too many ghosts to be called one. He found the narrow pantry further down. It was efficient, bare, and full of vacuum-sealed ration packs and cookware that could be folded up. Every label had the Midas Industries logo on it. The same gold symbol was even on the water filters. Rations for soldiers, not tourists, he said with a smirk. It was useful, but not in a spiritual way. But it meant staying alive. And that was enough for them to live. Next came the sleeping areas. There were 2 sets of 3-tiered bunks on each wall, with their corners bolted tightly to the frame of the plane. There was a soft glow light, a privacy curtain, and a small space for personal items in each berth. It was very little comfort, wrapped in military precision, which was exactly the kind of order Gina loved. A soft grunt brought him back to reality. Paul got out of the lower bunk and rubbed his eyes to wake up. He saw Nick and let out a tired laugh. "Thought you would be coming along," Paul said, his voice still hoarse. "Wouldn't be a mission without you storming into hell." Nick looked at him with a hard but honest look. "I couldn't miss this one. There are men from Thanatos on that train. My friend is too." Paul's smile went away. Nick's voice was so tense that it stopped any more teasing. Barry looked up from his datapad. He was already sitting down and putting on a harness. He spoke in a calm, almost surgical way. "Resolve's good," he said calmly, looking at Nick. "Just make sure it doesn't get in the way of your judgment. If we follow the captain's lead, we'll make it back alive." Nick nodded once, and that was all that was needed. He could feel the engine vibrating deep in his chest now, like a countdown to something that was going to happen. Every second airborne brought them closer to the speeding train, and to whatever waited inside it. A few moments later, Captain Gina Rhodes walked down the aisle, her boots clicking loudly on the deck. Even without her rear armor, she had an air of authority that made the air itself stand straighter. "Okay, Spartans," she said, her voice cutting through the noise of the turbines. "Last night, we hit a Deathclaw cell in South London." They didn't have time to delete their data. She stopped and looked around at her team, whose faces were lit up by the dim red lights in the cabin. That information told us where to go. A goal. The Black Death has taken over a train full of people. They want to crash it into King's Cross Station. The words hit like bullets. Nick's heart rate went up. He tightened his hands. He saw Connor's face in his mind, laughing, alive and human. The idea of that laughter turning into fire twisted something deep inside him. Gina went on. The station has already been evacuated, but don't get it wrong. This is a terror attack meant for the cameras. They want the world to be afraid again. We're going to stop that. She stopped for a moment, and her cybernetic eye shone faintly in the red light. No deaths of civilians, no collateral, accuracy over pride. We do this right or not at all. The cabin was quiet. The engines made a steady thrum and the oxygen vents whispered. Nick looked at Paul and Barry, and they all nodded, united by purpose, if not by peace. Gina used her gloved hand to turn on a holographic interface on the wall of the cabin. A pale blue light flickered on, lighting up the tents inside of the VTOL. It was clear what the picture was. A bald, dark-skinned man with a scarred left eye and a cold, unrepentant look in his eyes. Gina said, in a clipped but authoritative voice, "This is Leonard Payne. He used to be a decorated soldier in the American Federation and was an expert on heavy weapons for the 5th Titan Assault Group, also known as Titan Squad. He was part of some of the most dangerous missions ever approved during the Second American Civil War and the Grand War." She let the picture hang in the air so that the squad could see the man who had taken the plane. A war hero who was once praised is now a wanted terrorist. Payne was once praised for his service, but all of his military honours were taken away after he was found guilty of several crimes, including illegal arms trading, killing civilians on purpose, sexually assaulting several underage victims, and leaking classified information to enemy states. The weight of the words made her voice falter just a little. A brief flash of pain crossed her face, breaking her calm demeanour for a moment. Nick saw the change right away. "Are you okay, Captain?" he asked, his voice softening with real worry. Gina looked him in the eye and took a deep breath to calm down. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice had a serious tone to it. "It's just hard. I was a member of the Titan Squad. Leonard wasn't just a soldier. He was one of the best leaders in the field. But the war made him different. Or maybe it showed who he really was." She looked back at the projection, which now showed classified files like mugshots, court documents, and records of smuggling. Payne was able to get away from custody during his war crimes trial. The justice system barely had time to notice he was missing before he showed up in San Angeles. He built a criminal empire from the ashes of his reputation and formed a gang called the West Side Hoodlums. She tapped the interface again, which showed her pictures of gang symbols, drug shipments, and weapons that had been seized. At best, they're drug traffickers and arms dealers. Their reach has ruined communities by getting teens hooked on designer drugs and flooding the streets with high-quality guns. Violence is always behind them. But even worse? Gina's voice got lower, and her face got hard. Under all of that, Intelligence suggests that the hoodlums are deeply involved in human trafficking. Women, kids, anyone they could sell, take advantage of, or use as leverage. Payne didn't just fall from grace, he jumped into the void. The cabin was quiet and cold. The flickering hologram of Leonard Payne hung in the air like a ghost from a time when things were worse. Nick's jaw tightened as he realized how serious the threat was. This wasn't just a mission to save someone. It was a fight with a man who had chosen darkness and traded honor for power. And Nick was set on bringing him down. Gina quickly changed gears, her fingers moving quickly over the holographic controls. The picture of Leonard Payne faded away, and a detailed 3D map of the hijacked train took its place. Each carriage slowly spun in the air, with different colours showing where people were likely to be, where civilians were likely to be, and where they could get in. "We'll be rappelling down to the roof of the train from the Harpy," she said in a clear, commanding voice. "Don't worry about the speed. Our boots have magnetic stabilizers that will keep you in place once you land." She looked at Paul and Barry. "You two are going to the front of the train. The controls will be automated, but the Black Death has probably hacked the AI to turn off the emergency systems. You need to connect to the train's hardware and give our jacker, Daedalus, a way in. He'll take control of the system and turn on the emergency brakes once he gets in." Barry nodded. "Right away. Got it, ma'am." Paul checked his weapon and said, "We'll make it happen. What if we get into trouble?" Gina's face got harder. "Take them out if they resist." There was no doubt. The Black Death bots are set to shoot at anything they see. Don't give them a second chance because they won't give you one. Got it? "Crystal," Paul said, and the sound of his rifle loading echoed through the cabin. Gina's attention turned to Nick, and when their eyes met, he could tell that this would not be an easy job. "Nick, you're with me. We'll land towards the back, break through the last carriage and move forward. Get rid of any threats, protect the hostages, and get to Leonard. We do this quickly and without making a mess." Nick nodded, his mouth set. "Are we going to capture Payne alive?" Gina said. "If we can." Her voice steady but tinged with grim realism. "He's in Thanatos' inner circle. If we caught him, he could tell us exactly what Black Death was going to do next. But don't count on it. He won't talk easily, even when GCPP is questioning him." A voice came through the cockpit. "Captain, the train will be here in 2 minutes," Artyom said, his thick Russian accent cutting through the tension. "Going into stealth mode now." The engine's hum got deeper as the Harpy's plating changed, making the plane almost invisible to radar and the naked eye. Outside, clouds moved quickly as the horizon came into view. "Okay, everyone, get ready," Gina said as she took her own rifle from the rack. "This is going to be a hot drop." Then she saw Nick, who was still wearing jeans and a hoodie and was standing in the squad. She raised her eyebrow. "And you, Nick? Are you going to fight a terrorist group while wearing casual clothes?" Nick smiled and raised his arm to show off the sleek nanolinker on his wrist. "That's a good point, Captain. You might want to cover your eyes. This could get a little bright." He moved forward and made a fist. The order rang out, loud and clear. "Zeus!" The word echoed through the cabin like thunder. A blinding flash of white light shot out of his body, filling the room with bright energy. As the change happened in seconds, shadows danced crazily across the metal walls. When the light went out, a shining figure of strength and defiance stood in for the teenager. It was Zeus, wearing his Mark IV power armor, with a glowing HUD flickering across his visor and nanomites humming along the surface of his reinforced plating. Paul's mouth dropped open. Fuck, that was crazy. It usually takes me 10 minutes to put on my gear. Barry laughed dryly. Maybe if we save the day often enough, the council will let us have one of those too. The light above the door blinked from red to green, making the inside of the harpy look creepy. We're almost there. Stop talking, boys. Gina's voice was sharp and commanding, cutting through the tense air like a knife. Ma'am! Paul and Barry answered at the same time, their voices full of adrenaline as they jumped into action. They clipped the heavy-duty abseil lines to their harnesses with mechanical accuracy and checked their gear again in a matter of seconds. The plane shook a little as Artyom changed its altitude, and the sound of the VTOL's thrusters went from a whine to a controlled roar. Artyom yelled from the cockpit, doors opening in 10. Get ready to deploy. Gina stepped forward, her eyes full of determination. Hey, we Spartans were made to be fast, clean, and deadly. We fall, we fight, and we save every single soul we can. You know what to do. She looked at each of them in turn, and her voice didn't waver. Guys, it's time to do what we do best. Kick ass and save lives. The side doors hissed open with a loud bang and a rush of wind, revealing the speeding train below. It was a silver serpent cutting through the English countryside, its carriages smooth and quiet under the grey winter sky. Paul and Barry went to the edge, ready to jump. Nick, now known as Zeus, followed closely behind. His power armor hummed softly, and every part of him was focused on the mission ahead. Gina said under her breath, "Let's make it count." And then she jumped into the storm without thinking.